What's going on YouTube? It's Darren, the Bowtie Fragrance Guy, on the channel where fragrance and fashion collide. I talk about them both. I think it's important if you're going to smell good, you might as well look good as well. So if you want to learn about more men's fragrances, how you can look your best, smell your best each and every day, then I think you found the right channel. I hope you will consider clicking the subscribe button and also make sure you hit the bell icon as well so that when I upload new content on the channel, you get notified. Guys, you see the title of today's video. I'm going to be talking about 10 fragrances in my collection that I think are worth paying for retail. Now, with that being said, I am definitely a supporter and somebody that promotes people finding fragrances at the best price possible. Period, point blank, end of discussion. I just feel like if you can get it for a cheaper price, as long as it's authentic, then by all means, get it at a cheaper price. But with that being said, there are some fragrances in my collection that I have paid full retail for one reason or another. Not to really get into that, whether it's, just wanted to do it at the time, just felt like doing it, or whatever the case may be. There are some fragrances I have paid full retail for, but this video is more so about fragrances that I feel are worth paying full retail for. Now, this is just my mindset. I find it really difficult to suggest anybody paying full retail for anything when you start getting past 250, 300, 400, 500 bucks. Hey, as good as the fragrance may be, I'm just saying personally I find it hard to make a recommendation that is worth paying that much, because just based off the simple fact of what fragrances are essentially. But not saying that essentially it's not worth that. I'm just saying I would find it hard to recommend somebody paying full retail, especially when we start getting around that $300 range. So most of the fragrances on this list, of course, is not going to be in that price range. Again, not knocking fragrances that are more expensive. I'm just saying, as far as saying, hey, this is worth 150, 200 bucks, I'm a little bit more comfortable making those type of recommendations. So, but anyway, by any measure, I do have 10 fragrances here that I do feel are worth full retail, and that's what we're going to be getting into. So if you want to see what made this list, then you know the routine. Keep it locked right here. All right, guys, we're back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked in, man. Let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Now, the first fragrance I have on the list today, this one comes from the house of Giorgio Armani, and this one is Acqu Di Gio Profumo. Now, I think this one was released around 2015, 2016, somewhere in that time frame. And hey, simply put, man, this is just one of the best smelling designer fragrances that have ever been created. And this size bottle that I have is a 75 ml, so it retails for about a little over $100. I think 102, between $100 and $105, depending on where you're looking at full retail. And honestly, if I had to pay full retail for this, this is one that I think is worth it. Again, simply put, Acqu Di Gio, the original, was one of the best selling men's fragrances of all time. They have that same scent DNA here, but they added incense and patchouli. So now, one of the best fragrances that's ever been created has made even better. How can that not be worth full retail? So definitely one that I think is worth the price tag. If you had to pay full retail price for it, I would not blink twice to add this one to my collection at full retail. Incense, patchouli, now you can wear it year round. Made a great scent DNA even better. So, first fragrance on the list from the house of Giorgio Armani. This is Acqu Di Gio Profumo. All right, the next fragrance on this list, this one comes from the house of Xerjoff, and this one is called Naxos. Now, another one that to me, it is so well done. A lot of folks compare this to one of my favorite designer fragrances of all time, Pure Havane. And there are some similarities there, but this one does its own thing. And when I talk about this fragrance, I always make reference to the lavender note in this, which is very much a game changer if you're talking about those two scent DNAs, Pure Havane and Naxos. Masterfully done, well blended. To me, the lavender in this makes that if you're comparing the scent DNA to Pure Havana, even more wearable. Just an amazing fragrance. And again, keep in mind, guys, now I'm saying that, you know, I still try to find these at the best price possible, but I do think this is one that I could vouch for, that I think is worth the full retail asking price, which is around that $235, $250 price point. Definitely, in my opinion, worth the price of admission on this one. One I will always have in my collection for good reason. This stuff is absolutely amazing. If you like tobacco, this is one I feel like you would really, really enjoy. So check out this one from the house of Givenchy. All right, guys, the next fragrance up on this list, this is definitely a no-brainer. Definitely worth full retail on this one from the house of Mugler. This is Pure Malt. Pure Malt. This boozy fragrance really changed the game, if you ask me, man. You have the booziness, of course, in this that comes from the malt. You have some patchouli in here as well that kind of give this chocolatey kind of vibe to this fragrance. This stuff is absolutely amazing. It's fantastic. There's not enough good things to say about this particular fragrance, about Pure Malt. Of course, it has the performance factor is there. The unique factor when it first came out is there. And it only retails for about 89 bucks. Sometimes different places you look is $90, but 89, 90 bucks for this. I don't have to say much, guys. You know this thing is worth it. If you put your nose on this, if you love a boozy fragrance, this is one that I'm sure you will enjoy. And again, one that by all means, hands down, is worth paying full retail for. So pick it up, man. If you don't have it in your collection, I think you'll be pleased with it, especially if you're looking for a nice boozy fragrance. From the house of Mugler, this one is called Pure Malt. The next fragrance up on the list, anytime I talk about this, a gourmand lover's dream, definitely worth full retail, from the house of Kilian, Black Phantom. Black Phantom. My bottle was halfway gone, and that just speaks to how much I enjoy this scent. Even with it being a fragrance that I will really restrict to wearing in colder temperatures, it's just that good, man. It's just that good. If you like gourmand fragrances, it's really hard for me to envision someone not really particularly caring for this fragrance if you're a gourmand fragrance lover. Rum in here, sugar cane. There's like a coffee accord in here. I always say this smells like my white chocolate mocha from Starbucks, which is one of my favorite drinks of all time. But this stuff is just amazing. It's amazing. It performs, so you get the performance. Definitely worth the full retail price. I think when it came to copper, it was around $2.95, but now without it is $1.95. So I would definitely recommend this being one that I would say is worth full retail. So check it out from the house of by Kilian. This one is called Black Phantom. All right, guys, the next fragrance on the list comes from the house of Tom Ford, one of my all-time favorites, and this is Noir Extreme. Noir Extreme. At full retail, I think this is around the $150 price point. Hey, man, listen. Hey, this is one that he had bottled this up, put this on his one of the private blends, and sold it for a higher price point. I think people would have still come out in droves to add this to their collection. Very unique scent DNA. It's sensual and it's sexy. A perfect date night fragrance. Perfect fragrance to wear in those close encounters, cuddle kind of situations. This is the perfect fragrance. The coffee in here is amazing. The pistachio, the warmness that comes into play from the ambery, more ambery, warmer cores in this fragrance. An amazing scent, amazing scent. One that you really need to put your nose on. Hands down, to me, is worth the full asking price on this fragrance. So, like I said, man, if you never put your nose on it, another one that I highly recommend. I don't think you'll be disappointed in this one from the house of Tom Ford. This is called Noir Extreme. All right, guys, the next fragrance on this list, this fragrance actually comes from the house of Penhaligon's, and this one is called Sartorial. Sartorial. Now, this particular fragrance I've talked about before, but if you like a fougere, this is one that you have to have in your collection. I would recommend this fragrance to anybody that's well-tailored. Talk about well-tailored, nice suits, nice menswear, shirts, ties. You know, somebody likes to really dress up in that regard. Guys, you gotta have this in your collection, man. You gotta have this in your collection. This was made to resemble kind of like the fragrances from the replica line. This is one they could have put in the replica line and called this Salvo Row or bespoke tailor's workshop, because that's what this was made to resemble, that smell. If you know anything about making well-tailored garments, making clothing, then you know that there's a whole process that they go through from, you know, the shop itself to the ironing and pressing of the garments and things of that nature. This fragrance was made to evoke that whole experience, from the wood floors, oftentimes in a salvo row kind of setting, to the steam, from the steam coming up from the garments being pressed, the whole nine. This was made to evoke that kind of smell, and they captured in a bottle an amazing fragrance. I think it retails for around 130 bucks. Definitely, especially if you love a nice fougere, it's definitely worth the price of admission on this one. So check it out, from the house of Penhaligon's. This one is called Sartorial. All right, guys, the next fragrance on this list, this one comes from the house of Hermes, and this one is called Terre de Hermes. Terre de Hermes, again, one of my absolute favorites. This is called, or a lot of people refer to this as the dirty orange smelling fragrance. It has beautiful citrusy orange accords in the opening of this. It has the gunflint, the vetiver that gives this earthiness to it. Very sophisticated fragrance, and I absolutely love it. You know, the freshness and the uplifting nature of it that you get from the more citrusy notes in this fragrance again, and then when you get to the more masculine dry notes, the woodier notes like the vetiver and the gunflint in this, just an absolute gem of a fragrance. I think it retails for around 125 bucks for a 3.4 ounce. And again, if I had to pay full retail for it, wouldn't feel like I was cheating myself one bit. One that I will always have in my collection, and I think is worth, of course, the full retail price. Check it out, man. This one is called Terre de Hermes. All right, guys, the next fragrance on this list, we're going back to the house of Tom Ford, and this one is called Oud Wood. Oud Wood. Now, listen, I get it. A 3.4 ounce bottle of this is over the $300 price point at full retail, but the 1.7 ounce is not over $300, and I would recommend highly. You know, this is something that I would say is worth full retail, especially at least the 1.7 ounce bottle, because it's just so good. This is so good, guys. If you're a person that was thinking about getting into oud, but was kind of afraid based on some people talking about sometimes how skanky oud can be, how animalic it can be and really take over a fragrance, then this is one that I would highly recommend, because it's not overly oudy, if that makes sense. You do detect the oud there, but it gives it that right amount, in my opinion, of sexiness. This is a sexy scent, but by the same token, it's really fresh, clean, and inviting. And I think that's what's so alluring about this fragrance. There is a versatility that this fragrance provides as well, but more on an upscale kind of vibe, and that's something I love about this scent, man. It's familiar, but then by the same token, it's a little bit mysterious, and you can smell definitely the class in this fragrance. Very unique. Definitely, again, worth the price of admission on this one to me, hands down. So, guys, you know, if you've been following me for any amount of time, this is one of my all-time favorite fragrances. I really love this one and highly recommend it. So check out from the house with Tom Ford. Again, this one is called Oud Wood. All right, the next fragrance on this list comes from the house of Chanel, and this is Bleu de Chanel Parfum. Bleu de Chanel Parfum. I was one of the folks when this first came out, because there were already, of course, two other iterations of this fragrance, the Bleu de Chanel EDT and the Eau de Parfum. And this one, when it came out, of course, it retailed at 150 bucks. Knowing what I know now about fragrances, I do see the value in this fragrance. This thing is probably one of the best smelling, most versatile fragrances that you can have in your entire collection. I mean, you can take this one from, of course, jeans and a t-shirt all the way up to a tuxedo, and nobody's gonna have anything bad to say about the fragrance that you're wearing. It's that good. I love the fact that this is a more woodier interpretation of the Bleu de Chanel DNA. It's not, they've turned down the citruses in this fragrance. It amped up the woods. Very simply put, they made it more of a masterpiece than it already was. So even at that 150 price point, which again, you guys know, Chanel fragrances aren't really heavily discounted. It's really hard to find these fragrances at discounters. So with that being said, I do think that this fragrance is worth that $150 price point. So if you don't have it, get it in your life from the house of Chanel. This is called Pour de Chanel Parfum. All right, guys, and last but not least on this list, this fragrance comes from the house of Mancera, and this is called Cedrat Boise. Cedrat Boise. For everything that this fragrance is, and to some degree for what this fragrance is not, this stuff is just absolutely amazing. The full retail price on Mancera fragrances are $180. So if you're getting into niche fragrances, it's a fragrance house that a lot of fragrance reviewers like to recommend, because comparatively speaking, that's not really that expensive when you compare it to the prices of a lot of other niche brands, $180. But of course, anybody that's been collecting fragrances for any amount of time will tell you this fragrances from Mancera are really easy to find between 80 to 100, 120 bucks. Really easy to find most Mancera fragrances somewhere in the $80 to $120 price point. So with that being said, this is one of the more popular fragrances from Mancera that I truly feel, if I could not get it at that discounted price, is worth the 180 bucks. Most of them are, to be quite honest with you, but especially Cedrat Boise. Again, I'm not even gonna really talk about the comparisons to Aventus, because though it is there, I've always said this fragrance has so much of, so many other things, I should say, that make it a different fragrance. Especially the leather in this, and the sandalwood. The leather gives this a, this really warm, kind of masculine thing, much different from what the birch does in the Aventus. I'll say it that way. And then the creaminess. I always talk about the creaminess of the sandalwood. So it gives you that really mass appealing DNA that most people love about Aventus, but does it in a totally different way, a way that I love. So I definitely think this is worth full retail. So if you see it, pick it up from the house of Mancera. This is called Cedrat Boise. All right, guys, that's it. That's my time. I hope you enjoyed this video as I went through 10 fragrances in my collection that I would pay full retail for. As always, I appreciate your time and your attention watching these videos. I know you guys don't have to watch, but you do. And trust me, I sincerely appreciate that. Now, don't forget to take a few moments to make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you're sharing these videos out to some other folks that you think could use this information, or if they may find it entertaining, that works as well, because I'm your guy, the bow tie fragrance guy. I love to look good, and of course, I love to smell amazing. So until next time, guys, keep looking good. Keep smelling even better. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.